Good afternoon all. Thank you everyone for joining. We will just give it a couple more minutes just before we get started, just to allow any sort of last minute people jumping on. I think there are just a couple. And I think we probably should be good to start going through. So good afternoon all. Thank you everyone for jumping on. So my name's Oliver. I'm the Public Sector Account Manager here at CPS. But more importantly, for the next hour or so, I will be a host for this afternoon's webinar, which is touching on how Barking, Havering and Redbridge University Hospital Trust have leveraged Microsoft Project for the Web, or Planet Web Premium features as Microsoft is currently rebranding it, to enhance clinical safety within their organization. So just before we get started as well, just a couple of light touch housekeeping elements to be aware of. There are both chat and Q&A functions within the Teams window. Hopefully everybody can see those. They should come up as a panel. You should have options along the top or as a panel on the right-hand side. Myself and a colleague will be keeping half an eye on these to deal with any kind of immediate questions. Otherwise, we will sort of look to kind of address any kind of content-specific questions towards the end. As part of sort of a Q&A session. Beyond this as well, as you may have already seen at the top left, we are currently recording this session. After the fact, we should be looking to send out the recording automatically to anyone who's attended and hopefully to anyone that's registered. If you don't receive the recording and do want a copy of it, please let me know and certainly can look to send it on to you as appropriate. Perfect. And in which case, without further ado, I guess we can start working through. So in terms of the individuals available on today's webinar, so you have myself as the host, as I've just given you a bit of an introduction on. We also have Dion. Dion, I hope you're there.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, were you going through them all, or do you want me to start?
I was about to say, but if you wouldn't mind just giving sort of, sorry, you may have missed just a sort of a quick line as to kind of who you are.
Yes, of course. I am having a few technical issues today, ironically. So my camera isn't working. It's throwing me a little bit. So I'm Dion Rogers. I'm Deputy Chief Nurse and Chief Nursing Informatics Officer at Barking, Havering and Redbridge Trust. And it's my 3-year anniversary this week of joining this trust as CNIO. So yeah, welcome everybody. And thank you for inviting me to this webinar.
We are also joined as well from Barking and Havering, Rosalia.
Hey everyone, my name is Rosalia. I am the Digital Clinical Safety Officer for BHRUT, and I am a nurse and a midwife by background.
And then finally, from a CPS side, I promise he's nowhere near as stern as his image on the picture appears to make him look. We've got Andy from CPS.
I like to keep that look on me. I'm Andy Carter. I'm the Senior Modern Work Management Consultant at CPS. My background, I've been in IT for over 20 years now, working in IT management and project management, and I was a principal technical architect on this engagement with BHRUT.
Perfect, thank you all. So in terms of kind of how we'll be approaching the topic today, bit of an outline of the agenda is available on screen right now. Fundamentally, the way we'll be looking to approach this is kind of an outline of the specific issues that we're occurring within the trust, how exactly the trust identified a preferred platform that they wanted to use to address the particular issues, and then subsequently how CPS helped to tailor the approach of configuring and adopting the new platform. So with that being said, I will hopefully hand over to Dion, who can hopefully give a bit of an outline of kind of how they look to approach the particular problems that they were having.
Oh, thanks so much. Again, apologies about the camera. I have tried to put the avatar in as well. I'm not sure if that's working, but let's see how we go. You can hear me, I hope. So, as I said, I joined the organisation about 3 years ago, and we didn't have a clinical safety officer in post. There had been one previously, but that position was reallocated during COVID to help with the immunisation programme. So there was snippets of kind of clinical safety work around, but nothing cohesive. So I went out for a CSO and found Rosalia, who's been absolutely amazing in bringing clinical safety to the organisation. We are in a position now where currently we have 205 digital clinical systems. Most of them don't talk to each other, and we're in a very intense programme of bringing together Oracle's Millennium EPR system that we're planning to go live with this year. And so huge ask to try and look at all of our legacy systems, to try and look at all the new stuff that's coming. And as we know, digital is coming thick and fast at the moment. Everybody wants a slice of the pie, and also the EPR. But we were experiencing some big clinical safety incidents. We had a couple of SIs to do with digital systems. And so we felt it was really important to get this work underway. But it is huge. And Rosalia is one person. And so very quickly, we realised that this was a bit of a beast that was very difficult to manage, and started to think about, OK, we're the people bringing tech into the organisation. How can we use tech to leverage some of our efficiencies and see if we can do more with less, sort of thing. I think the big kind of buzzword in the NHS at the minute is efficiency. Looking at the new 10-year NHS plan and the things that the government and West Streeton in particular is talking about are how can we leverage technology to work for us. We use it in all other walks of life. You know, I recently bought a house and did it all on my mobile phone. So, you know, but in healthcare, we're very behind, and particularly very behind at BHRUT. We are considered one of the, if not the least digital trust in London, and we want to change that significantly, and so we wanted to look at what we could use. I spent a couple of weekends looking at some different systems and what we could utilise, but everything kept drawing me back to what tools could we already use that we already had access to in the NHS, and also what tools were we used to using in the NHS. And obviously during COVID we very quickly adopted Microsoft Teams. We'd been using Outlook for a number of years, but all of a sudden there was this whole new world that opened up around Microsoft Teams. And, you know, one of the big things for us was using systems that we already had. We didn't want a 206th system that didn't talk to anything else either. So after some toing and froing of looking at different systems, we kind of said, well, what about something that could work with Teams, that could work with Outlook? I'd been used to using Trello previously, so started to have a look at Planner, and then reached out to Microsoft and said, look, we've got a problem that we're trying to solve, which is where I believe we should always start. The problem driving the solution rather than the solution driving a new innovation. And reached out to Microsoft. They were really great at listening to the problems that we had. And myself and Rosalia then were supported by Microsoft to come into partnership with CPS, at which point they helped us to get a £10,000 grant. They did all the legwork on that, which was absolutely brilliant, because we know one of the big challenges in the NHS, as well as time, is money. And so, you know, that really opened up the doors for the conversations, and the rest is history, shall I say. You'll continue to tell the story, but the thing that really resonated with me was that both Microsoft and CPS understood what we were trying to achieve very quickly, and enabled us to fill those gaps of that tech knowledge that, you know, even though I'm CNIO, I'm not a techie. I'm the sort of person that can link clinical to digital, but don't ask me to develop a program, because that will never happen. So, you know, we needed you, we needed CPS, we needed Microsoft to help us. And I do believe that partnerships are the way forward with trying to solve this efficiency problem that we have, and kind of bring us up to speed with the rest of the world with technology. So yeah, the main things were working with someone who understood the problem, looking at tools that we were already using in the NHS that really would help us to kind of integrate this and transform the position, and really help Rosalia to do the job in a way that felt really overwhelming. And so I'll hand over to look at, so Rosalia can tell you a bit more about the specific things that we were trying to achieve and what our vision was with development of a system that was really bespoke in clinical safety management, but encapsulated tools that we already used. So that was the start of the journey. Over to Rosalia.
Thank you, Dion. So just going to talk about the tool that CPS helped us developed. We decided to call it DASH, so Digital Assistant on Safe Healthcare. Any of the name would have been good too. So in terms of adoption and change, why was DASH developed mainly was because we were looking for a tool that would centralize, structure, and give a transparent way or transparent vision on how we are managing clinical safety projects. We wanted to ensure alignment with the DCV 0129 and DCV 0160 requirements from NHS England. And we wanted to make sure that we had a one-door entry or a pipeline where all the projects were coming through the same door, so we could see a reduction in delays, improving efficiency, as Ian was mentioning, and providing a clear ownership of the task and who was doing why. So with Dash, we have that. We have a clear and structured workflow on where projects are being logged and how the workflow is working. We have improved visibility on how the task and the responsibility and expected timelines will be for projects. We have enabled a real-time tracking, whereas so we have moved on from the culture of emails just to check in where the project is at, or emails just to check in where a document is at and things like that. You can log the documents in Dash, you can see them there, you can see the project and the progress in there. So we have a lot of visibility there. We have auditability as well. We are able to, well, at the moment, not as much, but the more projects we log, we will be able to get data out of it to make sure that we understand how long really clinical safety projects are taking, what are the delays, what are the most common delays. And we also have accountability, because now we allow everyone to see who has the project being allocated to, who's working on it, and who to come to whenever there is a question. So Planner was mainly chosen for BHRUT and to work that will work with us. It will be because of integration with Microsoft 365. So there is a connection with Teams, there is a connection with Outlook, with SharePoint. It's a familiar interface. People get used to it really quickly, and it's quite easy to understand. It's very flexible and very customizable. I'm pretty sure Andy will touch on all those points after me. So it allows us to tailor what we wanted and what we needed to the point. And it also help us to check compliance, and as I said, to check audits, and it was cost effective, basically. So from our experience, once we decided to go down this route, for all the reasons I've just mentioned, working with CPS was very easy, especially for me, that I have never developed anything in my life. Just being able to talk about my problems, it was more of like a therapy session kind of thing, and Andy will just take all of my concerns and just put it into actually something that will work for us and something that will make sense. It really helped us as a tool management to make a more clear pathway and help us structure clinical safety within the trust. So, as I was mentioning, the key enhancements I will say that CPS have brought for us have been to develop a timeline tracking for the system, integrating a hazard log within the system. That obviously we are working on improving that still a little bit more, but we can log hazards within the system. We can also log SIs, as Leon was mentioning earlier, that those are serious incidents that happen within the trust, and we can transform them into hazards as well. So we can have a follow-up of them within the system too, and we have improving our reporting capabilities within it. In terms of adoption, I am not gonna I'm not gonna lie here. This is probably the point where we still need to work a little bit more. As Dion was mentioning, we have a big deployment coming in the next few months of EPR Millennium, which means people are more focused on that project at the moment, very understandably, and also means that business as usual has come into a back burner at the moment. So we don't have as many projects as we were expecting to come through Dash, because the main focus at the moment is EPR. We do have a couple of projects there that are ongoing and definitely are bringing a lot of learning for us. And we have created a guideline and we have some teaching points. So whenever we are able to pick up again business as usual, we can pick up Dash and start working on a proper adoption, because at the moment it's not as implemented as we would wanted it to be, but it's for the reason we've mentioned. Is because EPR has taken the main approach at the moment. And last thing I wanted to mention is future plans for adoption. So we will definitely would like further integration with Microsoft tools. So if we could have like planning tasks, or we could create with AI some of the documents or part of the documents that conform the DCB 166. We could have deeper insights in terms of how to create these documents, and also speed up the production of them. Also, we would be able to collect more feedback to continue to improve. So that will be the future plans for adoption. I think Andy can probably take it from here and explain more how we develop the Dash.
Yeah, thank you, Rosalia. And by the sounds of that, I should probably add psychiatrists to my list of skill sets. Yeah, I mean, we had obviously when we work with Microsoft or partner ourselves with Microsoft, one of the key things are they do present opportunities to us. Now, a lot of the work that we generally carry out can have, varying repercussions across industries. The healthcare and obviously pharmaceutical and all those for us are very key and particular, because sometimes a lot of the work that we do isn't always what I'd like to say, life-changing or life-saving, etc. So when we actually get to work with trusts and pharmaceutical and anywhere in that kind of health industry, it does mean a lot more to us. Obviously, talking to the likes of Rosalia, understanding some of her pain points and the challenges she was going through to actually pretty self-manage this whole clinical assessment bit pretty much sole-handedly almost. It really drives home the actual need for assistance in this area with some tooling. Now, when obviously this engagement came about, the term obviously Microsoft Planner or Project for the Web, as it was formerly known, was brought up very early on. Now, that doesn't mean that that's necessarily always the right thing, and we would always start with some kind of assessment. So the very first conversations with the likes of Rosalia and Dion were more about, look, tell us the challenges that you're having, explain the the problems that you're having with your current system or non-system as it may well be, and we'll kind of step through what opportunities there are and what possibilities there are using the Microsoft stack. And as Rosalia mentioned earlier, one of the key things is that you're already using the 365 platform, that Microsoft ecosystem is utilizing stuff that is very familiar. It may feel different, it may look different because you're kind of moving into more of a cloud platform base in the 365 stack, but everybody's used to the likes of Teams now, so actually the adoption change is, albeit it's still a challenge, as Rosalia mentioned, is a little bit more fluid. Now, the good thing is with Microsoft Planner is it was basically designed to almost deliver feature parity with the likes of Microsoft Project or Project Online. That's a slowly evolving tool, whereas what will happen in the long term is obviously Project Online will probably become Microsoft Planner. So the view will be that the kind of web interface that you utilize today, hosted in the cloud, will be the trajectory for Microsoft going forward. Now, the good thing is with that, it brings a lot of features and benefits, and we'll get onto this a little bit more, but I think Rosalia mentioned actually utilizing elements such as AI. Now, AI has really come to fruition in the last 18 months or so, with the likes of Microsoft Copilot, etc., that are now starting to pretty much be ingrained in a lot of organizations. So actually being able to align with that ecosystem and utilising, generative AI to actually help out and assist with your daily tasks has almost become paramount. And a lot of organisations that we work with generally now can't look back from, that kind of involvement and that engagement when they start to utilise AI. The main features and benefits there with Microsoft Planner is to be able to obviously plan out projects or activities or tasks or workflows. Now, the good thing is with Microsoft Planner is it's fully customizable. So as Rosalia mentioned, theirs is very much called Dash. Again, you can absolutely name the tooling or the project, the product however you like. But the idea is it's fully customizable, it's low code. So although both Dion and Rosalia have said that they can't do it at the moment, I'm sure if they had more time, they would be actually able to develop on top of the platform themselves, because the idea is it's designed to be a low code environment. So a lot of our clients that we work with do take on that mantle and do administer and actually build upon and develop some of the platform themselves. So that's really one key thing. The main benefit for obviously the clinical safety team here was the actual ability to track, and it not just all currently sit all on Rosalia's shoulders. So the idea would be that everybody can actually work collaboratively. You could report on it effectively and efficiently. And also there was workflows, which some of them were automated, and there would be opportunities for further automation in the future where that kind of tool can basically improve and, integrate seamlessly and collaborate seamlessly with other stuff in the Microsoft stack. I'm not going to bore you too much more about the tool. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions towards the end, so I'll just pass back on to Dion.
Thanks so much. Yeah, we definitely want to have more time on this, Andy. It's to really think about, trying to develop something while we're doing an EPR was very ambitious, but we've now got the tool. We need to get some more time and some more projects in to do that. What we're really looking at is for other trusts to actually kind of take this step of development and saying, could we actually now do phase 2? So we've done phase 1. We don't have the bandwidth at the minute to do much more on it until sort of more or less the end of the year. But actually, there are grants out there. There are, brilliant people who are willing to help us. Is there any way that another trust might pick this up and then say develop it a bit further, and then we kind of get the benefits from that? I really love a pay it forward attitude in the NHS. We really do need some leverage of this type of technology to do that. So I think for me, that would be the main ask from the webinar is, encouraging other people to take this type of approach and almost build a bit of a community of practice around this kind of development. I've got a really big digital community, access to a really big digital community, and this problem is common to pretty much all of us. And so actually, if we can go forward and start thinking about developing Dash across the wider NHS, you might need a drink, Andy, got a bit of a bad cough there, bless you. That would be great. And then as you and Rosalia have mentioned, the use of Copilot licenses, we know digital is going to grow and grow and grow for healthcare, and the way that we're working now will not support safe rollouts and implementations of these systems, particularly as the NHS clinical safety standards are written at the moment. And trying to get the documents in, trying to make sense of them, and trying to turn around clinical safety assessments quickly is a real challenge. So I think if we can leverage this tool to really have as much efficiency as possible, and using things like AI for reporting or thematic reviews, and generally to speed things up is really where we want to go with this. So definitely want to keep working with you and with Microsoft around the development of Dash, and with other organisations as well. We're really happy to share our learning and really happy to share some further partnerships across the NHS.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thank you, Dion. I guess at this stage, I think we are probably approaching a bit of a sort of, we've kind of touched on sort of the main elements of the agenda. I'm sort of somewhat opening the floor in terms of are there kind of any specific questions or any kind of key points that anyone wanted to raise based on the conversation so far? Appreciate that. As mentioned at the top, we do have both a chat function and a Q&A function, which I believe should be accessible at the moment. I was about to say, I think from my side, I can see someone typing. I'm just going to hold fire, as I probably should have entered that before sort of opening the floor. But certainly, so the first one we've got is, and I'm guessing potentially, possibly open-ended question: is there an interface which I can refer to have an idea? I guess is that more from sort of just a sort of picture point of view in terms of being able to see what the actual kind of version of it looks like at present? So you should be able to unmute, I believe.
Yes, to have a visual representation of the planner itself and see how this device integrates with other projects. Let's assume it's a digital solution that you're planning and you are using a project for the web, which is a Microsoft product, I believe, for planning the project. And how do you integrate this tool with a planner to see how the project is progressing and how, and I think Rosalia mentioned that you have this option to update your hazard log in the system itself. So how does that work? Is there a visual representation or something which we can refer to?
Go on, Ollie, do you want to take that one?
I was going to say from the more technical elements, I don't know if you want to lead on that one, Andy.
I can answer the technical one. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Project for the Web, or is we should really now call it Planner with Premium Features, is the new official name for Project for the Web. From many points, basically, you can design and interface it however you like. I could obviously pull up a slide demo or whatever, but if you've got a particular need or idea, it's maybe worth just Ollie reaching out to you to have a bit of a conversation to kind of go through that. From an integration point of view, Microsoft have a lot of what they class as out-of-the-box integrations, so it can interface with a lot of systems that are already available. So just to throw some names out there, the likes of Salesforce, Sage, those kind of elements that are more financial or kind of CRM integrated. That doesn't mean, however, that it might not have a particular tool that you may already use in a clinical assessment centre or an NHS kind of industry. The reality is obviously understanding what the tool is. Now, they have two different types. They have what they call a premium connector, which comes as a license cost. If I talk about Microsoft licensing, I'd probably take up the whole of the rest of this session, so I don't want to spend too much time on that because it is quite complex. But there is also the ability to obviously open up API integrations with other products as well. So a lot of Microsoft products allow for the use of REST APIs, which gives you the ability to connect seamlessly into other products. Sometimes there is a development cost, not necessarily at our end or any other MSP's end, but more at the actual end of the actual product itself. Some of them will offer that REST API as an open API, and therefore it has no cost. But some software developers will unfortunately lock that down, and there is some development costs. So hopefully that answers the question, if I've understood that right.
Yeah, you have. Thank you.
I was about to say, in terms of specific licensing breakdown, I know Andy kind of referenced that could be a webinar in itself. We have actually recorded webinars kind of touching on sort of the overall sort of how the licensing structure works, particularly relative between Project Online and what was Project for the Web is now becoming Planner with Premium Features. Certainly, if that is of interest, I can absolutely send on to anyone and everyone who that could be relevant to. Guess keeping the floor open. Are there any other sort of immediate questions or queries, kind of either on content so far or on the tooling that has sort of been spoken through? I think there might be something on. So this just come through from Will. Did you already have a range of existing project/change management systems or methodologies already in place? If so, what has been your strategy for implementation? integrate, or alternatively integration / migration into one system. I guess potentially Dion and Rosalia, that's maybe aimed towards yourself in the first instance in terms of kind of what you already had, or if you did have anything to begin with.
Yeah, I'll take that, Ollie. Can you just read the question out again? Is it on the Q&A, is it?
It is on the Q&A, but yeah, so just to confirm, did you already have a range of existing projects / change management systems or methodologies already in place? Is kind of the first part of the question. If so, what has been your strategy for implementation / integration into one system?
Oh, that's a very big question, isn't it? So the first thing to say was, no, there was no strategy. We didn't have a digital strategy other than being part of Frontline Digitisation Levelling Up programme, which meant, you know, trying to have less systems and to have more one integrated system. So the first thing that we did was say, you know, what's our priority, which was to have a joined up EPR in North East London. The Homerton and BHRUT are our two other acute trusts, and they both had what was Cerner, which is now Oracle Health Millennium System, and we had System C EPR. But the trust had really struggled to deploy that system, so there was various iterations of change management and systems in place that really were trying to solve individual services problems, but not really an overarching strategy. So really it was part of Frontline Digitisation where we kind of started to have a look at a collaborative approach with BHRUT and actually joined them on a shared domain project. So that was the main thing for EPR, which has really started now to come into a really, I liken it to with a third monopoly card on the board. You know, the other two had kind of got their systems, had them for quite a long time actually, and we were kind of the third one to join. So I can't wait till the day that actually that we go live and that starts to build a real structure. So change management was really difficult for digital. It was very service driven, not an overarching kind of digital strategy, but we now do have David Newey as Chief Digital Transformation Officer, which is, I know is quite a new title in all these CIOs, but our trust really sees this as a digital transformation being a whole trust project rather than a digital transformation project. So now what we're trying to do is look at all the other tools and systems that we have in place to see, you know, how much of those can be leveraged into kind of a bigger one system or 3 or 4 bigger systems rather than loads of disparate systems. And what we've seen is some of our, so say our quality assurance, one of our quality assurance systems kind of were brought out by another bigger company and have been sunsetted. So some of the smaller companies now, we're finding they're giving us notice rather than us not recontracting because kind of they're being swallowed up by some of the bigger tech companies. So I think a digital strategy will be our next move around that. But no, we didn't use tools other than Excel, really. That was our major project management tool, I guess. And so we are really looking at project management tools now and seeing what we can use to really leverage this technology in the future. Hopefully that answers your question. It was quite broad, but very good question.
Yeah, thanks. It kind of does. I'm not personally in the NHS myself, but I was curious because of just the project on the web, etc., which we've used. We're in the telecoms industry, and one of the things we found that was challenging, which is why I was asking the question, is you kind of get all these like federated projects and change areas quite often pop up because of human nature's want of control. And it's just and also different elements of our business working in different ways, agile, waterfall, etc., quite often using different tooling. So it's kind of that sort of, it's almost the human element as well as the tools to say, you know, the reason I was asking is, are you trying to build one that masters them all, or are you trying to sort of build an ecosystem where they all kind of have a sort of a framework? So yeah, I think you answered that pretty well. I think you're still trying to figure it out by the sounds of it.
We are trying to figure it out, and you know, it's you make really good points, Will, because what we've actually discovered through starting this project was that actually is replicable across many other areas of our business. So, for example, the way that we manage freedom of information requests, the way that we manage finance, you know, with our finance department, you know, the structure is we have a business case presented with the benefits, but actually it's a real industry tracking those benefits and that return on investment. So quite a number of our departments are really interested in the development of this, to say, is there a way that we can integrate this? I'm really looking forward to when we can get to the point where we can really use this for resource management, because one of the issues that we have in clinical safety is who has allocated time to do the hazard workshops or the safety assessments or the reports. And actually, you know, to use our Outlook calendar, a lot of our clinical informatics staff have clinical work as well to do, but we give them dedicated time. But trying to chunk that dedicated time up and kind of track everybody and see who's got the resources is an industry within itself that Rosalia was having to try to manage. So if we could have a way to build in that capacity within Outlook, and you know, when she has a new project come in, this is the idea, when she has a new project come in, we can say, okay, you know, Yasser doesn't have a project at the moment, and he looks like he's got this time in his diary. It kind of gives another tool to try and manage humans who are all trying to do their best as well with clinical work. It's a real wicked problem that we're trying to solve with this tool. So I really hope that we get a bit more time to kind of have a few more projects in it that we can then really see how it works in anger.
That's great. Resource management, that's a fun one,
isn't it?
Yeah, we've tried that a few times.
Oh, we might need to chat about what you've tried so we don't make those mistakes.
Yeah, by all means.
How long have you got?
No,
but thank you for the question.
I'm just really keen. I'm glad to see that you're doing this whole like community thing and learning from each other. That's really great. It's kind of partly why I kind of joined this call.
Great, thank you for that. Spread the word.
Perfect. I guess just looking back into the Q&A section again, if anyone has any other questions, by all means feel free to put them into the Q&A section or into the chat. Andy, I'm looking at one that is potentially slightly more tool related. I'm sort of looking forward from a tool. So looking forward, how can Microsoft Planner be integrated with other tools to improve project management and collaboration? How can Copilot Dragon be utilized alongside this?
Yeah, I'd love to know where Stella got this question from, because it's very, very on point and very timely. I will cover this in a second because it's literally just got announced 3 days ago, so she's kind of put me on the spot here, which is amazing. But just to cover something on Will's as well, just to add a little bit of context, that story, Will, resonates with us so much. We generally, as we work with any kind of organisation, come across this problem a lot, because the golden Havana for everybody is to have that single pane of glass approach where you can basically utilize one system and that one pane of glass runs everything. The reality is, in a lot of organizations, departments, whether they're public or private sector, have this challenge that there's always directorates or different teams or different departments are working different ways. You mentioned a few different delivery methodologies in there as well, utilizing waterfall and agile, that kind of thing. The challenge is always, is with a lot of that, is that obviously there's tooling designed particularly for those, you know, like agile probably kind of leans a little bit more into the likes of, as Dion mentioned earlier, like the likes of Trello and Jira and Azure DevOps, those kind of Microsoft or non-Microsoft products. And then obviously you've got the more waterfall based ones that sit in the likes of Project Online, Project for the Web, the others out there like Monday, those kind of other options are available. The reality is, if there was one tool that did every single thing at the moment, whoever wrote that particular tool would be a multimillionaire and pretty much own the world at the moment. What we generally find is the great thing is with the Power Platform, which is what Project for the Web is or Planner is built on, is because it sits in that Power Platform, it pretty much can be designed to do whatever you like. It is almost like a playground for a low coder. So you can build model-driven apps based on data. You can build Canvas apps, which give you that more kind of visual feel. So a lot of the stuff that can happen in that Power Platform, it ranges from the likes of a PPM tool, so managing your projects and your portfolios, etc., all the way to more of a Canvas style one where you can basically have room booking systems, etc. So there's loads of potential opportunities for how that can be utilised, and that's why. When I joined CPS, it was really key to me to kind of move into this space because there's a lot of development. But now I've delayed enough to try and get my head around Stella's question, and thank you for that, Stella. So Copilot Dragon. Okay, so Copilot Dragon was announced around 3 days ago, I believe. This will probably have a massive impact in the future for clinical assessment, the NHS as a whole, anybody in that kind of medical profession. Now, what it's utilising is 2 areas. So it's utilising what was Dragon Medical One, which I believe is a nice way to kind of be able to speak to a system and it kind of interpret what you're looking at. Now, what the Dragon Copilot system does is it basically takes that and what they call DAX Copilot, nails them both together, and you actually get something that enables you to kind of utilize AI in a medical term. So a lot of Copilot can be very generative at the moment. It can be very generalized. It's like taking a large language model and basically pushing it towards the medical sector more. So it's basically enabling you to kind of streamline that documentation, which I think is one thing Rosalia mentioned earlier, which would be really key to do, but also surface information. So what you could absolutely use in this scenario is, let's say, for example, 12 months down the line when Rosalia's had a load of time to put a load of information into the system, she could absolutely utilize like Dragon Copilot to go in and pull information that's relevant to you now. A lot of us will pick up the phone, and I'm not going to say the particular buzzwords that will pick up on everybody's phone, but you know what they are, and you can ask information and be able to pull it back seamlessly. Now that will be massive, and that will have a massive impact, to that kind of profession area. But also, is if you think about the automation, this is where Copilot kind of moves alongside RPA. So you get that kind of robotic process automation. So you can deliberately push, automation around individual tasks. So you could basically get it to go and actually write some of that clinical assessment stuff for you by basically, just asking Copilot to reference some material that you've got and actually build upon it. So, but yeah, it's a lot of the things we hear is really good. I'm sure Stella could stick a nice link into the system on what it is, and thank you for asking that question, because it's very pertinent on the fact that it was announced 3 days ago. So
how can we get a license then, Andy?
Talk to Ollie on that one. I don't know what the license requirements are on that one, but
yeah. We're always pushing the envelope here, aren't we?
Absolutely. I'm sure that's one that the AI team will absolutely be all over already. I think they're currently on site, I think, with Microsoft at the event, touching on elements of this. And I think any more questions for them? One more. So for BHRUT, what has been the biggest feedback or results during the early stages from the adoption of Planner with premium features?
Do you want to take that, Rosalia? Or do you want... You on mute? You're on mute.
Sorry, technology. As I was mentioning, at the moment, I only have 2 projects on Dash, which is far less than what I was wanting to. But as Dion was saying, maybe we were a little bit too ambitious of trying to get these and EPR simultaneously through the line. So it has definitely taken a back burner, and we are focusing on EPR a little bit more now. So feedback from clinical safety team, it's great. Like, we are all very happy to use it, and we are all very happy to have a system when we have everything centralized, but we don't have external feedback whatsoever at the moment, just because not many people externally have been able to use it just yet. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Dion.
Yeah, thanks, Rosalia. I think we've just had a restructure in our IM&T team, and so one of the things that we're working on is kind of a funnel process for how projects are agreed, funded and scoped, because at the minute a lot a lot of projects come to us on clinical safety that haven't got any finance backing behind them, and then one of the reasons actually that we wanted to develop this is because clinical safety, and particularly Rosalia and I, we're getting a lot of criticism, a lot of noise around that the process was really delaying digital projects and digital innovation, whereas actually what we kind of wanted to demonstrate was our process does need speeding up, but actually the fact that it was very messy at the beginning needed sorting out and needed some clarity around it. And what we wanted to try and do was demonstrate how long clinical safety was taking and how long it, could we improve that efficiency in the future. What it's actually done is given us a platform to be really accurate around where projects are in the process. And so I think the main feedback is less noise. We've not had direct, this is good, this is not, but what it's actually done is take some of the heat away from the annoyance, I guess, because we're able to very, very quickly say where a project's at and the stage that it's at and who the blockage or who the progress is sitting with. Whereas before it felt like everything was going into a big bucket of, well, we want this to go live and kind of you're blocking it a bit. So I think, yeah, the major feedback is how people are reacting now, and we're able to very clearly articulate where we're at. What we would love to get to is that we're able to demonstrate some really factual timelines and baselines about how actually information is coming into us, the scope is coming into us, and where clinical safety starts and ends, so that we can start to measure it and then work to improve it. So sometimes they say no news is good news, and that's how certainly we're taking it.
Perfect, brilliant. Well, thanks for that, Dion. I guess just keeping half an eye on time, I guess if there are any more questions, probably got maybe one or two more at the very most. But obviously just conscious I wanted to keep to actual timeframes at the moment. I can't see anything. But if there is anybody who has anything further wants to add over the next couple of minutes, which I'm guessing by lack of reaction. If anything further does come up, by all means, please feel free to reach out to us. Certainly at the contacts that are available within, obviously, the particular slideshow. And actually, on that particular note, I was probably just going to take this opportunity to kind of highlight sort of who CPS are as a more broader brush. So for a bit of context as to who CPS are, obviously, Dandy and I representing today. So we are a Microsoft provider and one of Microsoft's go-to partners, particularly in the project space. We are all very, very closely approaching 30 years old, having been founded in 1995, with expertise across the entirety of the Microsoft stack. So obviously we've seen today and touched more on the project and Power Platform elements today, but also expertise around Copilot. We are very much one of Microsoft's go-to partners in the Copilot space at the moment, with Copilot being one of Microsoft's big sort of directives over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. In terms of how we approach, I believe kind of the way that we've sort of outlined it today, and particularly obviously touching on Rosalia and Andy's points from earlier, it is very much kind of, we don't have that much in the way of actually sort of out-the-box solutions. A lot of our approach is about understanding your particular requirements, particular issues, and then subsequently designing and building a solution as appropriate beyond that. And I guess, again, yeah, not wanting to delay anyone unnecessarily. If there are any further questions, by all means, please feel free to reach out to us. So certainly, we're available at either the office email or myself directly. I'm available at oliver.gain@cps.co.uk. I do apologise for the short but somehow still bizarre surname that I have. It is very difficult to kind of somehow manage to misspell a four-word surname, but it is quite regularly Oliver Green, and you will get a bounce back if you do go Oliver Green, unfortunately. Otherwise, there are plenty of other informational events that we have. Obviously, I did reference earlier the recorded webinar that we have for the Microsoft project licensing SKUs for Planner Premium, Planner with Premium features that we have. There are a variety of other webinars both recorded and upcoming, that we have that are available across the entirety of the Microsoft stack, which are available online, as well as other information that we post via blogs and in-person events. And I guess from there, unless there are any further questions, I think that is probably everything we have for you this afternoon. By all means, certainly I believe we're planning on staying on for a couple of minutes more. If anyone has anything further that they want to add, or any other questions that haven't been addressed so far today, by all means, please feel free to stay on, or feel free to reach out to us separately.
Can I just say, Ollie, just thanks to CPS for listening to us, helping us to kind of be heard, and helping us to develop, and being patient with the fact that we don't have a lot of time and resource to do this. So yeah, that's a huge thank you from me. And you also did support us with our paper picnic last year and brought the best merch I have ever seen. So I do have to just say that, because we're very grateful for your support. Thank you.